Welcome to the Throw Show. Thanks for being with us, Lucas.
Thanks for having me.
So we're here with another episode of the Throw Show, and we've got Lucas Warning, Neil Serafinas' favorite technical model.
We're going right into it.
Strong.
I just think it's so. I just think it's so funny that he posted that today. As soon as somebody on Throws You sent me that in the DMs, and I was like, oh my gosh, really? Today, of all days, when we're gonna do it? We had already scheduled the podcast with you. All right, so anyway, I want to introduce you, Lucas, as I would say one of my, and I hate to give you any clout, one of the proudest coaching jobs I've done.
He's gonna start crying soon.
No,
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So are you.
Yeah, is with Lucas and seeing Lucas in high school throw at best 46-10, I think.
It was a 46 and 11 and a half.
Okay.
Can we get it straight?
But going from districts your senior year where you fouled out all down the left sector
Let's
line,
go.
where he was just absolute trash as a high school thrower, and then he ends up, he gets waitlisted, or no, you get, what's it called?
No, I was waitlisted at Lehigh and Bucknell.
So you had to
and
go second
I was
term.
rejected at Lafayette. A lot of schools didn't want me.
So he wasn't good enough to get recruited by anybody.
Yeah, I got no recruitment letters, not even at like the D3 level. All of that was like just academic at that point.
Okay, and so he was in a unique situation where he went to Lehigh the second semester of his freshman year. He ends up training. I was still throwing at the time. Lincoln was like 2 or 3 years old, I think 3, and Jason was in the same situation and wasn't going to K-State until the second semester, and it was basically the three of us training together every single day that whole entire fall. So you threw 46 feet as a PR in high school, and then the first meet that we went to, the Monmouth meet, I think you went 14?
1460.
So 1460, before he ever went to high school or ever went to college, he'd already basically, in theory, added more than 10 feet to his best. So I think it's cool that just to give that brief introduction, that's what you did. And then by the end of college, you threw 1898, second team All-American at the Division I level, pounded a lot of schools, shot putters that never even would have taken any chance at you at all. And I think that's just, to me, it's like a really cool story. And on top of that, you're a shorter glider, which I think it makes it even better, like contrarian story.
How tall are you, Luke?
I'm 6'1". I'm weighing like 120
So
kilos.
265, so
Kilograms.
yeah, in pounds. So I just think the whole story behind your development from high school through college and then post-collegiate now, this is the start of your second year post-collegiate. Last year you added over 50 centimeters to your PR. And I think just as that as an intro of who you are, you're a glider, you're short, you sucked in high school, you whooped a lot of people in college, beat a lot of really, really big name throwers, and really I think you've made like a name for yourself as, oh, he's that glider and that's on the come up. And I think that I think the next year, 2, 3 years, if you can stick with it and balance your current situation with life and everything, that I think you're going to keep making good progress. So before I keep talking, Trevor,
I think so for those who don't know, me and Luke went to the same high school, and what I remember from Luke is like when I was a senior in high school, he was, you were a sophomore or something?
Yeah.
You were just this small pudgy kid who just fooled around the whole time, didn't give a crap about throwing. When, I don't know if I can say I really did either at that point, but what took you from that pudgy little kid to what made you?
At this point, we need to get Kuhn to clip in a picture of him when he was a
Got some
freshman.
great stuff. Got some great
Absolutely.
stuff. Go way back.
Yeah.
So
Put
what
that right here.
what drove you from like that pudgy little kid right here to like to want to try hard, to want to push yourself to become like an elite shot putter?
And what even got you to think you're capable of that?
Right.
Because a lot of people would sit there and be like, I can't do this.
That's as much as I wish I could have prepared this question, I don't think I could have given like a solid answer. I don't know. I mean, I was talking about like it all comes down to like a level of like where is your determination at, where is your work ethic and stuff like that. So before that, so throwing always for me was, you know, I had a buddy in high school. We were big into football. Football was my thing. He's like, yeah,
Football was your thing.
I won one game
over 4 years.
over 3 years.
Why would football be your thing at Kutztown?
I love football. You know, it was just kind of my thing. But I had a buddy who's like, hey, you know, we don't do anything in the spring. You want to go throw some spears around? I'm like, yeah, that sounds fun. So that's kind of how I got into it. And I think that's always kind of what it was up until my senior year. You know, I was like the team captain of my football team. I was like the only vocal leader. Still won no games. Still got nothing for it. I'm like, you know what? It doesn't matter. I had a good time. End of the year, you know. Think like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get like an award for being like the best leader on the team or something like that. And no, I get stunted, and they give it to someone else just because they want to keep him on the team for next year. And that's kind of when it like hit me that like all the hard work that I put in on a team can be wasted on people who aren't working as hard as me. So then I wrestled the first time my senior year, and when I won that first match on the mat, and I realized that win was 100% due to how hard I pushed myself on that mat. That's kind of where it clicked, and I'm like, I want to be in something where it's single event kind of deal. Then it was very fortunate my senior year where one of my teammates was coming to train with you, Dane.
Jocelyn.
Yeah. So I ended up coming out with her my senior year. We'd probably come in like once or twice a week or something like that. I probably didn't like see stellar gains. You know, probably the distance that I improved my senior year was just because, yeah, I kept throwing. Like we weren't making many technical changes. Mm-hmm. I remember even you saying like, nah, I'm not going to make you rotate because you're only going to throw like one more year. Like we weren't trying to, you know, rebuild the wheel or anything like that in that time. But for some reason, and I don't know why, I couldn't tell you what like the falling off point was. I didn't stop coming. You know, I graduated, and I remember the day of my graduation, the day I got my diploma in high school, I was still training here in the morning. I don't know where it clicked, but at some point I'm like, yeah, I want to keep doing this. I'm not that great. I might not do it in college. I honestly thought like I was going to be going to Lehigh and I was going to be hopping on the bus and going over to the athletic facility by myself, not on a team or anything, just because that's something I wanted to do. I don't know where that clicked, but
I don't even think that I don't think it was till the end of the summer when you were.
Yeah, I had a tough time getting in contact with any of the coaches, so I didn't know what was going on. I'm just like, I want to do this. And the same thing happened like when I left college or when I was like in between my junior and senior year of college. I kind of made the decision, this is what I want to do because I love the sport. You know, because and it wasn't even like the sport because it was so new to me. I just loved that process. Mm-hmm. I was being continually rewarded for the hard work that I was putting in. Mm-hmm. And I was writing everything down. That was probably the biggest thing for me. I was writing everything down and I was looking like, wow, 3 months ago, I wasn't even touching these numbers. And that was just a continual process.
Could we have the statistics on, let's see, Monday when it's raining and
the third lunar moon
and your 15th throw, how far you've done over the last 7 years?
Sure,
Could you give us that information?
I'm sure I could get pretty close to it, that's for sure. Yeah. I have a lot of
I will add, though,
on
that I think that that's something that that needs to be addressed is that because he is so analytical, and a sport like throwing or weightlifting can be so easy to get engulfed in the data. It's so simple to be like, okay, if I, for weightlifters, it'll be, if I squat this, I should clean 80%, I should snatch 80% of my clean, I should front squat this, and it's so easy to get into those numbers that I think it's a similar thing with you, is that you are an analytical person, you like data, you like the feedback, and there's a little more variables for throwing, or there's a lot more variables for throwing, so you can sit there and play around with that stuff, and then you like to start to see patterns, and then you're like, oh, wow, now I've been doing it for 3 months, I developed patterns, now let's see if the trend continues based off of previous patterns, and I think that might have at least sparked you to continue to do it, and then get to the point where we were going to the Germantown meets, and it was like, all right, now you're throwing pretty well with the 16 pounder. You might as well keep doing this. I think that was one thing for me, was I feel like you threw like 45 feet at one of those meets, and I was sort of like,
I have those numbers.
Yeah.
it was high 12s.
But I remember thinking like, you probably should keep throwing at that rate of progress.
Right.
Not that it's huge, but you could, in my mind, I was thinking he could go to the Patriot League by his junior year, he could be a place winner.
Right.
I didn't think by your freshman year you get fourth.
Yeah. Which
is what happened.
Now, going off like all that data collection, there's good and bad to all of that. So I started out in every single meet that I would throw in, I would record every single throw that I took. I would record, like, did I train through the meet? Did I take caffeine before? How was I feeling mentally? How was I feeling physically? How is my technique? Like, these are all the variables that I'm recording on this spreadsheet that has over, like, 110 meets on it. But sometimes you can find yourself getting into ruts with that kind of stuff. Like, in a meet situation, if you find that you trend and you throw best on your first or your second throw, that can really break you down mentally. If you go out, I always throw well my first throw, and you go out to your meet and you start with a shit throw. Yeah, like there's some parts of that you need to battle.
Or you go to a first round and you've got to hit you're always the king of, fifth round's my round, fifth round's my round. Well, there's no fifth round. Yep. You got to hit it in the first three. Exactly. And I do remember having a little bit of that discussion, and you, by your senior year, saying like, it doesn't matter. I know I'm going to hit it. I know I can hit it.
Well, the one nice thing about recording all that data too is that I've had changes in those trends. Like, there were years where I would come out and I would throw best my first throw or my second throw. Mm-hmm. Then by my senior year, my first throw, I would throw a meter further than that later in the meet. And it would be like throw 5 or 6. So I, on a good day where I open up really well, that's the ability for me to go into the rest of the meet and say, yeah, I'm going to go another meter. That's great. Also, on top of that, I'm at round 5 and I haven't hit a mark that I'm happy with. That's okay. I'm still gonna hit it. So you just need to, like, try when you're looking at your data, take the good stuff, but try not to let that bad stuff linger in your mind. Because no matter what, if you keep working, you're gonna push through and get better. So don't get caught up on what really is just numbers.
So I wanted to bring up, Trevor, at the time that you were starting college, he was a junior, I think. And then by his senior year, I think you guys might have even thrown together at Penn.
Yes.
You
won that meet.
Actually, you helped me get my
you
get my PR.
Shoes or something.
That was,
you told me to spit on the ground, and
it was the first
because the circles
meet,
were so slick.
It was the first meet at those new circles there, and they were glassy.
So took your sage advice in PR.
What did you throw? 1765.
1755.
What I wanted to ask is, first 2 years you were good, but like 16, 17 low, good. Your junior year, you started, I think you didn't hit, no, you went just over 18 your junior year. Or did you only hit
1760.
As a junior?
As a junior, yeah. I didn't go 18 until my senior year.
But I think at that point I had started to think like, no, that's what it was. It was your senior year of indoors is when I was like,
I was barely under 60 feet. Yeah.
And then that's when it was like your first meet. It was like, boom, right away.
Yes.
It took off your senior year. So So walk us through, because I think one of the hardest steps outside of like 19 to 21 is 17 to 18. It's like you've got to change from being a normal person who's throwing to being like, no, for me to get to 18 consistently to 19, I've got to be an elite athlete. I've got to change my mindset. I've got to have a completely different approach to this sport, and I have to sorry, Trevor, swearing on the podcast. I have to really hone things in, and I think that your junior year or your senior year indoors was all like the confidence building and rolling, and then you knew we're going to go to outdoors, I'm going to go to the first round, I'm going to qualify, and I'm an All-American. And I think so walk us through what that approach was your senior year when you're looking at these guys who are coming back that are consistent 20-meter throwers, consistent 19-meter throwers, and you're sitting there going, I'm going to beat them. I might be a low 18 guy right now, but in 3 months, I'm going to beat them. Like, how do you do that?
Well, let's rewind a little further. Right after my junior year, I started my first in-industry internship, and I was like, so everything I was doing before that was landscaping and stuff like that, and I would get out of work early and I would be able to go and train. That internship was like a 9-to-5 job, and
Which one was that at?
So that was when I was at Lehigh, living at Lehigh, and I was training very early in the morning and lifting in like 2 hours after I would get out of work. But that's where a lot had to change for me. That's where I remember like talking to one of the coaches, one of the assistant coaches on my team. I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know if I want to be in engineering because I love what I'm doing so much. And I remember waking up some days and I'm like, it's too rainy. I'm going to go back to bed. I remember getting yelled at from you because I'm like, I don't feel like going out today. But eventually down that road during that summer, like something clicked, you know, when I was thinking to myself, how am I going to be able to have a job and how am I going to be able to throw when I leave school? And I think the biggest thing that clicked with me was I will never sacrifice my throwing career for my, engineering career until I am done throwing. My throwing career comes first until then. Because I can work until I'm 60, 70 years old. I'm not going to be throwing until I'm that old, at least not at the level that I want to compete at. Mm-hmm. So I had to really step back and say, what do I need to set aside so that I can get where I want to get? And then another bomb that hit me that summer was my coach, who I had for 3 years, was moving from Lehigh to Penn because it was closer to his home, and that position was opening up. So that was good for him. But no one wants to change their coach when they have 1 year left. You kind of build a rhythm, you have stuff going on, and you don't know what that next guy is going to be like. So I remember sitting in on interviews and I almost wanted them not to bring a coach in because I just wanted to do your training stuff and I wanted to send you video and I didn't want to have to deal with anyone else trying to put their fingers into my throw and change stuff. I got very fortunate that the guy that they brought on was incredibly chill about my throw. He's like, you pretty much own your technique. You know what you want to do at this point. I'm here to watch and I'm here to help. You have your technical model. You and Dane know your technical model. Let's work that. He was also really upfront about this is what we're doing in each program. This is what we're trying to work on. And that was kind of a change for me because I never looked at programs like, oh, I'm going to feel down right now because I'm lifting heavy. I'm not going to throw far, stuff like that. So this guy he came in, he was incredibly understanding about my process and what I needed to do. And he was also just a good guy, always around, to the point where we still hang out every other weekend out drinking. So yeah. But that was incredibly helpful to just roll off. It wasn't a high from the summer, but it was that getting over that hump and then roll into a fall where I was able to just work hard and not have to deal with hiccups. He wasn't trying to rebuild my throw for the first 2 months, and then roll into December and I'm ready to throw.
That's the thing. I think going through that junior or the senior year indoors, I sort of felt like that fall, even through indoors, was to prepare for outdoors. It was almost like a given, like not that you didn't think you couldn't make indoor NCAAs, but it was more like I can make outdoors and my odds are more in my favor outdoors. And I can use this to really set me up. And I guess walk us through that.
I mean, there were still like a lot of funky things going on with my throw and how I approach my throw and how I approach my technique at that point. And I don't think I truly had like a firm handle on what I wanted to do with my throw, what I wanted to feel. I don't think I had that handle until that meet at UVA where I went 1872. I didn't have a handle on this is what my throw should feel like. And it took me till then. I think if I was more mentally present for my throw in my indoor season, I would have thrown further. I mean, I don't usually throw that great indoors anyway.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of just like, you know, I always thought I'm a glider. I can knuckle down and I can like grip my teeth and I can become a ball of muscle in the back and just throw myself at the front. And it's going to go far to, wait, let's take a step back. What are the mechanics in this throw doing for making it go far? And then going to that meet, and for some reason, everything just decided to line up. And, oh, wow, I went 1872. How did that happen?
Yeah.
I was surprised that happened at that point, so.
But then after that, it was 1898 at conference.
Yeah, so the next week.
1870 again or 1880
Yeah.
at first round.
Yeah.
And then
94.
91, I think.
94.
You sure?
Yeah, because I missed finals by 3 centimeters.
I thought 94 was the
No,
finals.
97 was the finals.
Wow.
Yeah. There was like 1 week where I was like down. We didn't like play in a peak or anything like that. I was just throwing well to the point where we were at my league championship and one of the coaches of the other schools that didn't accept me said to my coach, wow, I really hope you can hold that peak. And I'm thinking, you don't even know what I can do yet.
Yeah.
And that, like, there was so much satisfaction in that.
You hit a peak.
Yeah, and there was so much satisfaction in, like, being at a school. I applied to 3 schools in that league, and then all of those schools didn't want me, and then I go to one, and you could have had me. You could have had one of the best athletes in your program history if you just would have, like, looked into what was going on.
But I think that even goes into what we were talking about with Rachel, you know, in the previous podcast, is that there's so many Lucas Warnings. There's so many Rachel Fatherleys that just get lost in the cracks. That just they can't develop them. Yeah. They don't want to put in that time. They don't want to invest their emotions, their energy into the whole thing, and to really figure out who he is or figure out who that Lucas Warning type is, and play to their strengths, develop their weaknesses, and then create a good thrower. Yeah. They don't want to do that.
I think I was in the perfect environment for that, being at Lehigh. I don't think I would have been an 1898 thrower if I went to Penn State, even if I were on the team. That's nothing against the program. That's nothing against, like, they do great work there. But I needed it to be nurtured in a developmental way that a D1 school that isn't bringing on great talent specializes in. They're not bringing in blue chip recruits. They don't need to take them from 90% to 99%. Lehigh's taking people from, 50, 60, 70% and getting them to 80 or 90%.
Yeah.
So
if they're lucky.
Yeah. And that's kind of what, like, I flourished in that environment because the environment was there and I was there, and it was perfect for both situations. I don't know, I'm phrasing that terribly.
So you get second team All-American, beat a lot of really, really big name guys, and then you decide, you'd already decided you wanted to keep throwing before that. Tell everybody or give us an insight into that post-collegiate transition and what you had to deal with, what you're currently dealing with, and what I mean, even the communication with us and how we've got, you just had a job change.
Right.
And all that, and what happens, this is something I wanted to touch on before you answer, is that in track and field, it's so rare to have, if you call Lucas the journeyman, if you called him, it's so rare to have a journeyman thrower who just keeps chipping away, and then 5 years from now, you're throwing 21 or 4, whatever it is, right? In a sport like wrestling, where there's a little bit more funding privately, you get guys like Daniel. There's a guy, Daniel Dennis, who had continued to wrestle for a while. Then he quit, was living in his truck for like a year and a half. Came back for the 2016 Olympic trials and made it to the Olympics. Like sports like wrestling, you always have one or two stories like that where it's like this guy came out of the woodworks. He came out of nowhere, and he or like the Colt McCoy of. I mean, even though he just broke his leg or whatever. But like he hasn't played since 2013, 2014. But they can still hang on. So in track. Your story right now, it's like, why is he still throwing? But it's like, why aren't you still throwing? That's what I want to go over is why are people like you and Renner, you guys should continue to throw. And I felt like I was basically begging you to continue to throw because I want to see this through. I want to see this come to fruition and where it goes. And that's what I think that a lot of people shortchange themselves. And I want to see your take on that and how it is. Is it similar to going to college and managing college and training? And then now you just got to manage a job and life and training. What is it?
So just kind of like set the scene of, like I was talking about that junior year when I was freaking out and I'm like, how am I going to be able to do throwing and be an engineer? Lehigh's a very expensive school. I think right now the tuition with room and board is pushing $70,000 per year, probably like
This is an engineering school that had one of their buildings collapse because they can't engineer the building properly.
But I also got no money. I'm looking at you guys, Lehigh University. I got no money.
Not even your senior year?
I didn't get any money. They didn't give me any athletic aid at all.
He was paying them to throw a shot.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. So I know I'm coming out and I'm in a ton of debt. You can do the math if you want. I'm not going to put those numbers out there.
Dude, that makes me sick to my stomach.
Yeah, that's a ton of money that I put on my back, and I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be able to, like, work at a gym for minimum wage, and I'm going to be able to pay this off in under 20 years and not go bankrupt. I need to be using my degree, which is a solid degree. It's chemical engineering. You can make a solid amount of money, but I need to be doing something in that field, or at least close to it, so that I can pay this down, live, but I also want to throw. So I was very fortunate that right out of school, I got a job. It was down towards the Philly area, so I was commuting like an hour a day. That's one of the hurdles that I went through. That's incredibly stressful when you're on the road for a day and you're trying to prioritize sleep and diet and mobility. When you're sitting in a chair for a day.
When you're already tight, like you
Yeah.
with bad thoracic extension. And
Yeah, you can't do that when you're sitting in a chair.
Tell us how you structure your meals.
So just my entire week pretty much revolved around throwing or work. So every Sunday, I would wake up, I would go to the gym.
This is what you need to do with your note taking.
I would wake up, I would go to the gym, I would be there from 12 to 3. I would go home and I would...
Can we pay you to teach him organization and structure?
I don't...
It might be worth it.
He's a lost... This is a lost cause over here. But every Sunday, I would spend 3 hours at the gym, I would go home, and then I would cook for 2 hours, and I would cook 15 meals for that week. And then every day during the week, I would wake up, eat breakfast, go to throw, drive to work, eat a meal, work, drive home, shower, sleep. And I would do that repeatedly. And I work second shift too. It's not like I was getting out of work Friday and I'd have free time.
I think everybody has to let they have to let this sink in. They have to sit there and think, what is the effort? If you want to be good, if you want to talk all this trash and say that you want to be good, and you want to say that you want to throw and go to the Olympics and do all this other stuff, you have to prioritize everything: food, sleep, training, recovery, mobility, everything. And like, this is like perfect case scenario. The fact that you could do that, driving an hour each way, all cards are stacked against you. It's your first year of post-collegiate. It's essentially your redshirt senior year. And you still come out and PR. But I think people have to recognize, going from college, where half these kids, 3/4 of these kids, don't even wake up until 9:45 in the morning, to now all of a sudden you've got to wake up at 8:30 just to get to training on time after you got to bed at midnight. It's a totally different structure.
Yeah. I literally, and I think that's one of the best things, being on second shift like that. I didn't expect to have any free time, especially during the season. I said Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I'm doing the work and I'm doing the training. And then Sunday, I'm doing the training and I'm doing the cooking. That left me with Saturday. Maybe I could screw around and do something Saturday. You can't do that when you're in season. You don't have free time. It was through the week training. Saturday, we're competing. Sunday, back at the gym. Okay. And it was just rinse, repeat. And to the point where, like, my mom would always joke, and she's like, you need to get yourself a girlfriend. I'm like, I have no time, Mom. I have no time. This is where my priorities lie. I want to throw. And
you also just can't get girls either. It's not just like you don't have time.
That's a good excuse. Your mom's looking out for you.
Yeah. Trevor's mom's still saying that to him.
We don't need good.
But I mean, it wasn't easy at all. I mean, if you ask anyone that I trained with, I broke down a lot, and I'm like, what?
Wait, you would break down?
I would break down all the time, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? Sorry, Trevor, but that's why am I doing this? What am I going to gain from doing this? And it was really tough because up until I went 1952, my PR was 1902. I put on 4 centimeters, and I'm looking at this, I'm like, why am I doing this right now? Why am I putting myself through hell just to keep throwing?
And then 19 indoors.
Right, but it was only 4 centimeters, and it didn't like.
It's only 4 centimeters.
It was only 4 centimeters. It didn't like. It didn't feel like what I wanted. Yeah. So there was a lot of that struggle of why am I even doing this? And
where do you think I could have done a better job as a coach with communication with you and with being a post-collegiate? Where do you think I could have done a better job? Because I think that's important for people watching or listening is to sit there and be like, yo, like, if I'm going to do that, there's got to be better communication. There's what is that communication so that we know what are the expectations? Because this is the other thing. You were the first person that I ever dealt with that was on site and working the way you were. I've had other people do that, but not to that extent, to that intensity level.
So,
other than coddling you like a little baby.
I think the biggest thing is just having a lane of communication and knowing that, like, I could tell you what we can do, but that's only going to work for you and I. Mm-hmm. Everyone needs to have that open lane of communication and know that, yeah, I need tough love 90% of the time because...
Well, there is a time, too, where you need it. You need a little...
I need, like, a little pick-me-up every once in a while, but most of the time, like, this is what I want. Yeah. And that's maybe not what Trevor wants. That's maybe not what Rachel wants. And you're pretty good at, like, reading that for the most part, but having a sit-down one-on-one conversation, usually at, like, a periodic time period where you're in a place that, and this may sound bad, but you're both comfortable that I'm, as the athlete, I'm not afraid that we're standing out in the gym and I'm talking about something that I'm uncomfortable everyone else knowing. Or you feel the same way. Like, taking that time, whether it be 5 minutes a week, to just say, is there anything you want to bring up? And having that open lane of communication and knowing what's the best way to communicate, but usually doing that in a one-on-one situation is the best. Yeah. And then going from there and taking what you're learning from those conversations and taking them out to the gym and out to the circle.
And I'm not saying this, I still don't think you have fully figured out the post-collegiate transition. I think you're still figuring out the life balance with training and with who you are. Right. But I still think you're at light years ahead of where you were this time last year.
Right.
And I think that's one thing I think about with Rachel is like that second year to the third year. It's like, dude, it's like night and day even. Each year it's been that way. And that's where I think about with him. I think he could be. I think, and this is what my next question wanted to be is long term. You know, what are your long term goals? What do you want to be known for? Because I sit there and I'm like, I think you could be the best American glider ever, and that's including somebody like Al Feuerbach. I think you could have the better technique than him, and that's what I guess, long term. What do you see yourself doing? How long do you think it's going to take for you to truly? And you really probably don't even know. Right. Figure out the balance between life, training, and being happy.
Right. So, I mean, my goal for this year is 1980. I just want to get to 1980. If I don't make USA's outdoors again, so what? This isn't the year for me. Like, I don't need to make USA outdoors. I think I can do a lot better than 1980 this year. That's all I want this year. And that trials is the goal right now. I don't expect to be top 3 in 2 years. That's an insane ask. Even, I don't know, the U.S. is just stacked and, but I want to be at trials in 2020, and then I don't know what I want to do after that. I think a lot of it has to do with, how do these next 2 years go? So I also just transitioned to a new job that's instead of an hour away from home, it's 15 minutes away from home. It's also instead of working second shift, I'm working first shift, and it's a much more tight schedule that I'm not working. What was I working? Probably on average 55 hours a week at my old job. Now I'll be working a straight 40 hours a week. So there's a lot that I have to gain with, sorting out my life and how that works in with the training. And a lot of that looks like it's for the best, but also moving to first shift, now I have the opportunity to say, nah, I don't want to train today, or nah, I want to rush through my practice. I want to get home because I want to go out to dinner, and I want to go get a beer with my friends or something like that. So there's still a lot I need to work through with that in this next year.
If that happens, you're getting called out hard.
I honestly feel like the fact that I'm closer to home and the fact that, I don't have an excuse if I'm driving home far away, I used to skip reps all the time. It used to be I took 10 throws. I was supposed to do 12. Now I'm out there and I'm like, I'm not leaving this circle until I get 12 throws. Or if it's something like, you need to save 12 throws, I'm out there for 20 throws, and instead of just saying at 15, nah, I don't need to get them today. I'm going to make it happen now more than I would have back then. So I think there's good signs coming in, but I'm also kind of nervous that
yeah, but you've also voiced that to me too, where it's hey, you got to hold me accountable.
Yeah.
I also wanted to mention this. I think you have a better understanding of the technique now than you did last year. Now you know where we're at. You know where we need to go. You know what the end goal basically is, and what that feeling could potentially be. And now it's just sort of tweaking things.
Well, everyone has that transition. I feel like if you expect to throw even further your first year out of college, you're just going to be upset with yourself.
Yeah. You
should go into that first year and be yeah, I'm going to get used to this system so that the second year I can destroy it. Just you have a girl going from high school to college because they don't change weights. If they hit their high school PR, that's considered a solid year. Yeah. Just if, the conversion usually from 12 to 16 is 10 feet. If you're 10 feet under your high school mark, your first year of college, that's solid. So I wasn't expecting anything crazy, and now I know going from there, like, this is my year. This is the year where I can actually tack on some distance.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the fact that I actually know what I'm doing in the circle too.
All right. Trevor, do you have any questions?
I think the big takeaway with Luke, and for like high schoolers and kids in college too, like everyone always will see you throw and they'll be like, oh wow, like that's amazing, like I wish I could be that good. But deep down you're thinking you have no idea, they have no idea. They have no idea what you did to get to the place where you're at.
But so that is true. They don't know how hard I worked, but I was put on a pedestal at Lehigh. People, I felt like, always said, "Oh, Luke's." Well, they would say things like, "That's Luke. He's a different breed than the rest of us." I was not a different breed when I first started. I'm not a different breed at all, and anyone can get to that level if they. And it's not just working hard; it's working smart. It's having the right tools, having the right coach, but also working hard as well. So putting that all together, you're going to get somewhere.
Yeah, and I think like your mentality and your personality go like hand in hand with throwing, and the analytical approach, the numbers, seeing patterns, like just being like obsessive about like training and about just the sport in general is something that if you have that, like it's very hard to not get better,
right?
Because you're not going to let things slip away. You're not going to, you said you might take 11 throws instead of 12 every now and then, but like, most people are skipping 2 or 3 days of training a week because they're just
and then wondering
lazy.
Why aren't I getting better? I don't get
it.
it.
If you even if you're in all the time too, it'll be like after a meet and someone will start talking all like everything they're gonna do from now on, and it's like, oh, I only threw 43 feet this meet, like I want to be able to throw 55 feet next year. It's like, well, it's May, where was this 12 months ago, 11 months ago, like when the season actually started. It's like if you want to get to the level where Luke is at and go from literally the ground up, like you got to put in the consistent effort every single day
and just be like hungry for it. And this is a little bit of a brag, but I broke my back. I fractured my back. I think my
sophomore year.
Yeah, but December of that year, I threw the entire indoor season PR'd by something crazy like 90 centimeters. Then they diagnosed me in like March, like right before the outdoor season
and I had already called what he had in like November.
Well, there's a brag as well.
Yeah.
But they put me in for the MRI, and I'm like, I can barely move. I was taking like one session a week because my back would be on fire. But we had a meet coming up, and I'm like, I don't care. I want to throw. Like, the diagnosis isn't back. They can't hold me out. I want to throw in this meet. And I was just hungry for it. Unfortunately, the day of the meet, I get the call, and they're like, yeah, you've got a fractured back. You can't do anything. So you need to have that hunger for, I want to be out there. I want to be out there throwing. It's, I don't know. It's just like...
It's hunger and urgency. And to steal a quote from Barack Obama and Martin Luther King, it's like having that fierce urgency of now, where it's like, I need to do this now. It's got to be now with everything. My nutrition, now. My mobility, now's the time to start. My training, now. My technique and my analytical thought about technique starts now. But it's every day, all the time.
It's not like, oh, it's Wednesday. Like, that's more of a Monday thing to start doing.
It's always having, and that's one thing I've got to say too, is that you always have that urgency, and there's always like the hunger, but the urgency is feeding everything. It's always like, we've got to go, we got to do this, we've got to do this, I've got to hit this, except for your high hang snatches tonight. But you've always got to do a really good job with everything.
Yeah.
and you know that it will pay off. There will be that payoff at some point. When that is,
Right.
who knows? But that's the crazy part about throwing, is that we're always just chasing this random emotion that's out there like a drug.
It's wild. You get it. That happens, maybe 3 times a year if you're lucky.
If you're lucky.
If you're
It's
lucky.
worth it, though.
But
But
John
that's
Callis always says, like,
that's
you might
another
feel it
thing,
once
though.
in your whole life, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's still worth it.
That's another thing, though. Like, don't do it just for that, though. Don't do it for the success. Do it for the ups. Do it for the downs. Do it because you love being in the gym. Do it because you love, we're very lucky in the sport of throwing as compared to every other sport that I go in every single day and I've got my throw, I've got my heavy throw going on. I've got my light throw going on. I've got my snatch. I've got my clean. I've got my jerk. I've got my squat. I've got my back squat, or my front squat. I've got my back squat. I've got all of these things going on. All of these things that can go right. I could have 9 things go wrong, and there can still be that one thing that I look forward to in every single program. Yeah. So all of your weightlifters, they come in, and it's very tough for them. They have those 3 things, really 2 things, that they can be just not connecting on those 2 things, and everything is awful. You can come into your throw terribly. You can get
still a
through,
good bench day. Or maybe
still,
not you, Lucas, because your bench is trash.
You could still have a good something, and it should be that process should be what you love about it, and watching yourself grow and knowing that it's all going to eventually culminate in that emotion, but don't strive for that emotion. It's the process, really.
Yeah, embrace.
Yeah.
I mean, as hokey and as cliche as it is, like, embrace the process. But it is, in reality, true. It is one of those things where it's like, every day you can get better, and if you suck with one thing, you can still be good at something else. Actually, Rachel brought this up today. She's like, dude, my front squats today were so slow, but she threw better.
Yeah.
The day she had a big front squat, she threw like crap, So, that's a really good life lesson, Lucas.
I'm here with the life lessons.
Yeah, I've got a question that I bet we haven't really touched on a whole lot, but I bet people are wondering, is if we could briefly go through just the process of why you are a glider right now, and not, there's so many spinners out there, it's just kind of the normal track to go into spinning. What set you in as a glider?
Because I want to be the American glider. I want to be that guy. We talked about it.
I can answer this question real fast with one sentence. His spin sucked.
Yeah, that is a little bit of it. It did look pretty garbage. Yeah.
You did throw. How far did you throw in discus though?
Oh,
54?
54, 74.
So
I got that.
that's not too
Off a cliff.
too shabby.
Oh, yeah.
Never tell anyone that.
Yeah. Yeah, I threw for 3 months rotationally, and I threw 3 months rotationally, threw in a meet, threw like 15 mid. The next day, went into practice. I'm like, I want to see where the glide's at. 16:25. It would have been a PR on me. I'm like, what the fuck have I been doing these past 3 months? Yeah. But now it's just like a thing. Like, I want to prove that, like, gliding, you don't need to be rotational to throw far. Like, you see guys like Cord Ferguson, you see guys like Renner. Well, he switched, but you see these guys who, and Renner's not a huge guy. He's probably around the same size as me, and he's throwing 1950, 1960 as well. You don't need to be a freak or rotational to throw far.
Well, quickly, let's go over 2, because you're 6'1", you're 265. Everybody's, you got to be strong as hell if you're going to glide.
And they always say you got to have a strong standing throw. What's your best standing throw?
If I throw in a meet a stand of 16 meters, I'm like, let's go. This is a great day.
Yeah. So plus 3.5 meters.
3.5 meters on my glide.
Yeah. And now, if we go over your snatch, PR is 132.
No, 137.
You did 37?
Yes.
When?
I can show you the video.
I didn't believe that either. When you
yeah,
said
it's a thing. It's a thing.
I thought it was 32.
Nope, it's 137. I hit 300.
Okay, so 137. I think he's lying.
Nope.
You've cleaned.
Wait. Put the video right here.
You've cleaned. Now your clean is good. You've cleaned 72.
72. But I mean, I hit 70 for a double, so that should be higher.
But that is solid. But your
back squat is awful.
But his back squat's 228.
230 now.
Okay,
yeah.
230, which is 507. It's not that good. Your single leg squat is good, and that's very transferable to, I believe, to glide.
It's my only good lift.
Yeah, really is your only good lift. Your bench is absolute garbage.
Comparatively, yeah.
202, so like 445.
No, not even. No, get out of here.
But
I hit 440 on your that's 430 because he doesn't believe in math.
People aren't supposed to know that.
The truth's out.
So 440 on a good day.
Yeah.
200 kilo bench, and then you've got your jerks are trash. Your dude, you're not strong.
No.
And that's the one thing I want to point out. I think I've said this to you. You are not more athletic than Trevor and I.
No.
But you've thrown a hell of a lot further than both of us. And that all goes back to technique, you embracing the process, you taking care of all the little stuff, and you knowing how to prioritize what matters in training. And that's the difference. So everybody can sit there and run their mouth, think, oh, you need a huge bench press to throw far with glide, which you do. And that's what's cool is like, let's just say we do get you to 220.
Oh, that's going to be insane.
You know, where are we going to be? And that's the whole thing is that everybody wants to spout out all this stuff. But it always comes back to all you have to do is the work, is the process. That's it. If you have a decent athletic, base.
Yeah, don't like sit there and say to yourself, "Oh, if I could only have this, if I could only have this." No. There are a lot of things that you could fix right now that you don't need 3 years to put your bench from 315 to 405 or something like that. And I mean, that's another thing that I feel like, I don't know, I never had like an issue with it, but other people may, and I just want to bring this to your attention. Like, I look on social media and I see these guys doing, I did a 220 kilogram for a triple fast bench, and it moved pretty quickly. I'm looking, I'm like, I'm nowhere near this guy. Yeah. But I can still almost be competitive with some of those people because I don't need to compare everything I do to them. And that's like also the great thing of the sport. Don't compare yourself to the other athletes. Compare yourself to yourself.
Yeah. I think you're a great example of like catering to your strengths as well. And I think that's, like what you said right there, that's, you've excelled at your strengths and that's why you're throwing far.
Right.
Okay. Can we start the Red Hot Minute?
Let's do it. What's the Red Hot Minute?
Wait, do we have any questions on this?
I've never made it this far to the videos. I don't have time to watch YouTube.
We have a few.
What we got?
Just need to scroll up a bit. It's been a long podcast.
Yeah, maybe we shouldn't do any questions because I have twins I have to get to.
Hit me with it. What you got?
So, what's the biggest tip or lesson you've learned about the mental game of being a thrower?
The mental game has really taken itself into effect right now. So you always would have probably brought up, like, you need to be doing mental practice, meditation, stuff like that. That's something that I just started right now. I take the time, and I'm logging this right now. I want to sit down for 10, 15, 20 minutes every single day and do some meditation. And that doesn't mean you got to do some like hokey thing that you see, the Om kind of. You don't have to do that. There's great tools out there that can lead you through guided meditation that it doesn't even feel like you're meditating and you just feel so much better that like people are telling me that my mood has improved since I started. Yeah. So I use an app called Headspace. Definitely check that out. It's definitely helped my mental game.
Have you mentioned Luke's a great salesman as well?
Put that link right here. I don't get any money for that though.
So this next one's for Dane. What's the biggest hurdle into getting to 2050? Is it technical changes or strength levels or even just maturity?
I think it's maturity and technique though. I think the sooner you can mature from a technical perspective, and not a physical perspective. It's from the technique. Is that the sooner you can see things from an analytical, technical movement, the faster you will become an elite thrower. And I actually think about Taman with that question a lot. Is that once you can embrace breaking down technique and understanding what the model is and who or what positions you need to hit, that's when you can throw far.
Just to kind of bring it all back around, someone mentioned it would be fun to see who does a better technical analysis of Lucas compared to Al. Throws University or other online throws coach who just happened to make a video about it.
I would do a comparison of him to Al Forback. That would be fun. I like doing stuff like that. Like I did Rhodey and Krauser, and Peyton and Sarah. Who else have I done? I've done a couple comparisons where I like looking at stuff like that. That'd be interesting. I actually think it'd be cooler to see him and Timmerman, but
You can't get good video of that.
no. Yeah, we could do something like that.
There's a pretty good video of Timmerman.
It's great.
Not for the back.
It's not 4K.
Yeah, it's all from like the side.
That's why we're shooting here at Karate Strength. We shooting 4K?
Yes, we do.
Can you light him on fire while he's asking us questions? Like he's on fire right now, right?
What's the red hot minute? Do I just need to rattle off answers? Is
Yeah.
that what it is?
And this is these are the highest number of questions I've gotten. It's really easy to ask fellow gym members for questions for you and to get answers, to get questions.
Somebody
All right,
say
this
I'm
is
a
gonna be fast
personality.
though. No tangents off these.
Oh,
It's gotta be
you're asking
bam,
a
bam,
lot.
bam.
You're asking a lot.
Over under 3
Wait, what? I'm so confused.
days in a week you cry while driving.
What's the time frame? Probably over.
So the question was over under 3 days, and the question was days in a week that Lucas cries. While
days in a
driving.
week. Oh yeah. Days in a week. Oh.
Do we get to know who asked that question?
No. Okay. Here's one from DJ. Discus girls or shot girls?
Discus. Damn it, no!
Better hurry up, we only have 2 minutes left on the live feed.
Okay, this is what I got from my kids. Sleep or eat? What would you prefer to do?
Can you do both at the same time?
No.
Probably eat.
Okay, joggers or sweats?
Tights.
Hiking or photography? You're a fraud with both.
Hiking.
Spin or glide?
Glide.
Ooh, this is a good one. Clap or no clap?
Silence.
Okay. And the final one, Mack truck or Freightliner?
Oh, we got that Mac, baby!
Mack truck. All right, Luke.
All right, there we go.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Having a good time.
Peace.